Golfers, do you struggle getting to that picture perfect finish position that you see every week in professional golf? Do you struggle hanging back on your golf shots, not getting into your lead foot, leading to chunks, fins, shanks, and everything else? Well, today we're going to talk about why you are struggling with that, what you can do to fix it, and I'm going to give you 3 drills that you can incorporate to getting you to hit better iron shots and getting you closer to breaking 90. Now, we all know we're supposed to finish with our weight on our front foot, right? So we stand with the golf ball. We know that when we finish the swing, we want to finish nice and balanced. Weight on my front foot, my body in a straight line over my left leg, and I could even just pick up or tap my toe of my right foot. But what we really first need to understand is that our finish only reveals really what happened in the swing, and why it's so important to have our weight on our front foot and make sure we finish through the golf ball is really because of how we make contact with the golf ball. We need to have the weight by the time we hit this golf ball, probably 80 to 85% of our weight onto our front foot by the time we make impact. And the reason being for that, as most of you probably know, but for some of you might not, is how we need to hit this golf ball and how do we get it up in the air. And for an iron shot, what we need to make sure we do is hit the ground where the black line is after the golf ball, right? So for an iron shot, our swing is traveling down when it actually hits the golf ball, and then I hit the ground. Okay, I do not lift the ball up in the air, and that's the first issue I see with people is, yes, there are still some people out there that think in order to get this ball to go up in the air that I need to lift it up off the ground, and that's not what we need to do. What we need to make sure we're doing is hitting the golf ball first and the ground second. So the only way that I can do that correctly, right, is if my weight's transferring onto my front foot, and by the time I finish my swing, it's on my front foot, right? So if I finish with any weight on my back foot, then I know my weight wasn't far enough at impact, okay? So that's the first thing we have to understand is why it's so important to finish on our front foot, right? Now, the first issue I see, as I mentioned, is the golfer that's still thinking in terms of trying to lift the ball up off the ground, and that's not what we need to do. We've got to make sure that we're hitting the golf ball first and the ground second. So that's the first thing, is understanding the concept. The next issue I see with golfers that struggle with hanging back is a poor misunderstanding of how their body and their weight moves throughout the golf swing. I'll often hear people talk about shifting or transferring their weight. When I hear that, the golfer that tries to move their weight the most on their back foot going back, they're going to have the tendency to have the most weight on their back foot when they finish. If I exaggerate and incorrectly shift and move my weight, my hips, my shoulders, everything on this side of the golf ball, it's going to be too hard to move my body, move my weight fast enough, far enough to make contact, and then also not have that proper finish, okay? So first thing, the first drill that we're gonna talk about is just an understanding of how the hips need to work in the golf swing. Okay, so the first drill here is something that we can just do at home, right? And I'm gonna set this stick here behind my right foot. You also can do this by setting your right side of your body or your trail side of your body up against the wall. That would work as well too, right? So what happens for the golfer that struggles getting their weight onto their front foot, getting that proper finish position, is they don't move their weight far enough in the downswing. So they'll move their weight back on the backswing, and then from there they'll start turning, but if they turn without moving forward, that's when they're going to finish looking something like this. There's the hanging back, there's hitting the ground before the golf ball, thin shots, shanks, all that bad stuff, right? So the first thing that we need to understand, again, is how the hips are going to move through the golf shot. So what we're going to do, I got this stick here, but like I said, you can use a wall, that would work as well. And I'm going to put this stick right up against my hips here, okay, going right along my belt line. So the first thing I need to understand is I need to shift or slide my hips towards the target, okay? Now, a lot of people that come to me think that they're afraid that they're actually moving too much. I've yet to see an amateur golfer that has their weight too far forward at impact. I'm not saying there's not one out there, I just haven't seen that yet, right? So it's okay, and we need to have the feeling of the weight or the hips moving forward, right? Because from there, first, as my hips move forward, my right hip moves away from this wall, but also with the stick here, you notice that right side is lower than the left, okay? There's my tilting or my side bending. And then from here, what we need to have is that this right leg is actually turning into the left. And notice when I do that, how my left leg is already on my front, or my weight is already on my front foot. And now I can actually turn into the golf ball, and there's my finish standing nice and straight. If I try turning with my weight still more middle, there's me on the follow through. There's my weight on the back foot. There's me hanging back in the golf ball, okay? So very, very simply, we're just gonna set up against the stick here. We're gonna slide or bump our hips forward. And then from there, the weight's already left. We don't have to move it further left. From here, I'm just gonna feel my inside of my right thigh, inside my right hip, turning into my left, okay? And there's my balance finish. And if you look, notice how far my hips have moved right through the golf shot, okay? So that's the first drill, is getting this feeling or the understanding of how the hips need to work in the downswing. Okay, so the second drill that we're gonna do is gonna give us a little bit of a feel for what it actually feels like to not only have contact with my weight on my left foot, but then also getting the starting of finishing with the weight on my left foot. And this drill is what sometimes will be called the Stork drill or lead leg only. It has a lot of different names to it, but very simply, I've got my 9-iron here, 9-iron or pitching wedge. We're not gonna make full swings yet. And I'm gonna set up to the golf ball. And before I hit the ball, I'm gonna take my back foot, my trail leg, and I'm just gonna pull it behind me, okay? Now, obviously, when I do that, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna automatically have more weight on my front foot, but also what I can't do now as I hit the shot, obviously it's gonna be very difficult for me to fall or hang back on my back leg, because quite honestly, I would fall if I did that. So very simply, gonna just take the back foot, pull it behind you, and I'm just gonna make a little swing here, just standing on my front foot, little turn back, little turn through, okay? And even though it's just a little half swing, notice my finish position. My body right over top of my front foot, and you can see that that back foot has gotten even further off the ground, right? I wouldn't want you to do it where you feel that you're staying the same way. Although I hit that okay, notice I didn't move more weight onto my front foot. And I want you to start getting the feeling not only of starting with more weight on your front foot, but having even more weight on your front foot on the finish. So again, here's our setup. Just simply gonna take the back foot, put it behind you. So now that we're balanced on the front foot, just make a little swing back and through. There's my weight on my front foot, and you can see that back foot coming off the ground. There's no chance of me hanging back doing that drill. Okay, so now that we understand how the hips need to move in the golf swing to keep from hanging back, and after the second drill, the Stork drill, we have a feeling of what that's actually gonna feel like. Now we're gonna move and transition into the actual golf swing. And to give me some help here, I'm going to bring in this balance board here. This one here is from Downshift Golf. Highly, highly recommend this. It's an absolutely fantastic tool. I'm simply gonna put this on the ground. I'm gonna tee up my golf ball because that way it's on the same height as the board here. And as I get this positioned about the right distance from the ball, perfect. So there's two ways that I use this, and we're gonna go over both of them. So the first, for the golfer that really struggles with the weight on the back foot, and as you can see as I do that here, how the right side of the board is on the ground. For that golfer, what I will do is actually have them start with the left side of the board on the ground, and then my goal for them is to actually keep the left side of the board on the ground. So very much like the Stork drill, except now we actually have the right foot back as we normally would, right? So that would just look something like this, keeping the left side of the board on the ground. Okay, again, impossible to hang back because I would have that really, really good feedback. Hanging back with this is gonna look something like this here. Okay, I can feel the right side of the board falling on the ground. I can feel my weight shifting back behind me. Okay, so my first way of doing this for the golfer would just be to keep the left side of the board on the ground. Okay, now as I mentioned, the main thing with feeling that, making sure we're finishing with our weight forward and not hanging back, impact is really what matters. So some golfers, I like that, where they keep the left side of the board on the ground. For others, I want them to have a little bit more of the feeling of this actual shifting, okay? Because what happens with the golfer that struggles with this is they'll take the club back, and then the hanging back happens on the downswing, where I start to fall back, okay? I might move back in the backswing, but also I'm just not moving forward enough on the downswing. So the second way that I would utilize this board for people is we're going to start with the board, with the left side of the board on the ground. I do like for a bias for nearly every golfer to have their weight a little bit more forward to start with. Now, what I am going to allow in this one is in the backswing for there to be a little bit of shifting or moving the weight or the pressure so that the right side of the board gets onto the ground, okay? And you'll see that with a lot of golfers. There are some of the best golfers, Rory and Scheffler, a lot of these guys that do have a little bit of a shift off the golf ball to start. But the most important thing is what you'll notice is that that shift happens from here to here. At this point in the swing, when the club gets past parallel to the ground, you will see them all already starting to move forward, okay? And that's where the golfer that hangs back, that's where they go wrong, right? Is they don't move forward soon enough, and that's what we're gonna feel with this second part. So I'm gonna allow myself just to, in order to feel this shifting, and the shifting is always shifting forward, not shifting back, shifting back, shifting through. It's shifting, but it's always feeling like it's shifting in that direction, okay? So how it's gonna look from here, I've got the board pretty balanced. I'm gonna start with the left side on the ground. I'm gonna let myself, the right side of the board go on the ground to start, but before this club gets to the top of my swing, I've gotta make sure that the left side of the board is on the ground, okay? And notice what that's gonna look like here. Here's the backswing. Okay, and you can see on that one, I actually fall forward. I don't have great balance, but where was my weight when I finished? There was, obviously I was not hanging back at all. I was moving forward, okay? So do that one again. So again, got the board here, starting with the left side of the board on the ground. A little further away, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna let my weight go back to start, but before the club gets to the top, I've gotta have this left side of the board on the ground, okay? And that's the shifting that I need to feel. That's gonna start the hips moving forward. That's gonna keep me from hanging back on the golf shot. It's gonna get me into that finish position that I'm looking for, right? So here we are. Back. Okay, and there's my finish, right? On my front foot. Notice where my club's hitting the ground after the golf ball, right? This board here, very, very valuable feedback, okay? Again, two ways to use it. One would be keeping the left side just on the ground for some golfers. I think that's easier. While there might be some power in that movement here, for some, I'd rather you just start a little bit more forward and just let yourself keep moving forward, okay? Second way would be to feel a little bit of a movement back, but then making sure that you are shifting your weight before the club gets to the top of the swing. Thank you everybody for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have not already done so, please be sure to like this video and also make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. That will help me to put out content for you all and give you notifications whenever a new video comes out. If you would like to work with me, you can do so in person at Holly Ridge Golf Club on Cape Cod, or if you prefer, we can work together online using the Skillest app. And you'll see links to both of those in the comments below. If there's anything you would like to see going forward in any future videos to helping you to break 90, please mention that in the comments. And as always, thanks for joining and look forward to seeing you again next time.